Hey everyone, welcome to the Rock Shop with Ralph, your source for all things entertainment. Dio edition. We got another Dio member. Tonight on our show, we have Scott Warren, who's played with Warren, Dio, Dio Disciples, Heaven and Hell, among many others. Welcome, Scott.
How you doing, Ralph?
I am awesome. And that's a very colorful background you got going on there.
Yeah, it's my patio. Sunny California. Got an orange tree back here. It's pretty cool.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome. So I said it was the Dio edition because I had Vinny Appice on last week.
Okay.
We got you.
How's Vinny?
Vinny's awesome. He's very, very busy. He's always doing like 27 things at once.
Well, I need to hear you louder. I don't know. There's an airplane going by.
That's probably why. There you go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Okay.
Yeah, that was just a plane going by.
Yeah.
I guess you live near the airport.
It happens. I live near Burbank Airport, so.
Oh wow. Yeah. So Vinny at least has 27 things going on. But what's going on in the world of you? People that don't know you, I first got my first taste of Scott Warren, which I remember distinctively. I saw a Warren show.
Oh,
I saw Warren in the Nassau Coliseum. I think it was the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tour, 1990. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, it does. But I thought I was dreaming that ever happened. But okay.
And here's the thing. I remember Janie Lane going, "And on keyboard, Scott Warren," and I'm like,
Yeah.
What the fuck is Warren doing with a keyboard? I couldn't understand that. I was a teenager at the time, and I didn't know why they bring keyboardists on. But that was the thing back then because of the power ballads and all that stuff. And
well, they did a lot of keyboards on their records. I played on the last one that was on their record deal, which was I think Dog Eat Dog.
Awesome album.
Then they changed my name and put somebody else's name on all my hard work. So I wasn't happy about that. But anyway.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, I did all the keyboards, but they put someone else's name on it.
Oh wow. So, let's start. We'll start with Warren. We'll just talk about them for a little bit. So, you were touring with Warren, and I guess on the songs "Heaven" and "I Saw Red" and stuff like that, there's a lot of keyboards on it.
Yeah. Right.
So, were you there to make Janie's voice sound a little bit better? That's what the keyboards were for, or?
Yeah. I don't know if you're saying what they were trying to break away from the Milli Vanilli thing, if I remember. Which is why they were using, tapes, D88s or whatever it was then. And,
right.
And they got a lot of flack for that. So, cause I heard the tracks are basically playing to the album, on tape. So they wanted to go live. They wanted to get rid of that, and overcome that stigma. So Janie, I think, was the one that said, "Hey, let's get a keyboard player." And then he heard me play and said, "Hey, you want to join the band?" They said, "Oh, okay."
Right.
I wasn't doing anything at that point.
So you were just happy to pay the rent.
Yeah, I was happy to be on the road. They had some pretty long tours.
Oh yeah.
And it was a good show. But yeah, I mean, my role was to sort of fill it out. They had two guitar players, but so I was sort of an add-on to sort of just, keep it real,
Right. And you mentioned two guitar players. I actually have Joey Allen coming on the show on Wednesday.
Oh, really? How's he doing?
I'll let you know on Thursday because I'm going to speak to him on Wednesday.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, they're going out. They're still touring. They're going out. They got new singer Robert Mason.
Well, I know about that, but I mean, how's anybody touring these days? I mean, it's not like
nobody.
They're going to fill an auditorium with people at 6 feet distancing,
Yeah. Well, thank God that they got rid of the mask rule in New York. You don't have to wear a mask anymore if you're vaccinated. So things are starting to open up. There's a lot of people going back out on the road now. Me personally, I don't think it's going to be back to normal per se until 2022. That's when I think
it's going to take a long. I've heard that I think was it Eric Clapton or somebody like that is just going for it in certain states, full capacity. In states where he can play full capacity.
So Clapton's touring again?
That's what I heard.
Wow.
Grapevine. So there's a few, guys like that going out, but I mean, you really got to, I mean, to survive a tour these days, I mean, it was hard enough before COVID because of attendance and YouTube keeping people home on their couch and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
um, but we did pretty good. It just was modest compared to what you really need to have a successful tour. But things were building with the hologram and all that, and then COVID hit. So
Yes, we're gonna get to that. Now, I got a question for you, and I want to know if I read this correctly. Did you record or tour with Berlin?
yeah, I recorded with them, not on any of the albums that the big hit albums. That was way before my time.
No.
Yeah, but it was fun because I got to do something different,
Right.
than just pop or rock. And it was pop rock, but it was synth pop, and it was just fun to just channel myself and be versatile. And the way that came about was, somebody said, Terry Nunn, the singer from Berlin, is looking for a keyboard player for a rockabilly band.
Oh boy.
So I went and auditioned, and she really just wanted to do Berlin again, but she didn't have any of the original guys. So, but one of the songs I played the show that I could, do Berlin is were some of their hits.
Take my
But
breath
I was
away.
doing it all, huh?
Take my breath away.
Yeah, I think we did Sex Ima in the audition and stuff like that. But I was doing all the parts, all the bells and whistles, the whole thing on one keyboard. And she's like, "How are you doing that?" I said, "Well, it's what I do." She said, "Well, we don't need you to do that because we have all these tapes back here, D88s." And I'm like, "No, we don't need that.
Right.
Let me do it." So she's like, "Cool." Then she decided to start Berlin again. And that was many years after their success. But I guess the main guys that were the original members, they kind of just didn't want to do it at that time. I hear they're doing it again. I saw them in rehearsal about a year ago, and I think it was the original guys. She's got them back now.
Really.
But at that time, they didn't want to do it. So there I was. They got their original keyboard player back now and all that. And so that's cool.
So
It was fun. It was really fun.
let's start from the beginning. I mean, you were self-taught musician. You were self-taught, correct? Playing the piano?
Yeah.
That's a feat all in itself. What were some of the influences that you had growing up?
Well, the first influence was the
Little
Sound
Richard.
of Music.
Oh, the Sound of Music.
And my parents took me to see that, the real one. That tells you a little bit, giving away my age here, but I came home from that and I had a little toy organ for Christmas, and I just started. I see, the thing is, back in those days, you had to go buy a record, and the soundtrack even wasn't out yet. But, when you wanted to hear a song, you had to go find it on the radio and then try to figure it out then, or go buy the record, which might have been miles away in the snow or whatever. And so when I would hear a song, it would go around in my head, and I'd be like, I want to hear that song again, and I can't play it because I don't, can't, too young to drive. And so I just get on the piano and start figuring it out. And that's basically how I taught myself. And then I have to say, you asked a question. My first influence, of course, was the Beatles.
Ah,
Beatlemania, dude.
right. Everybody. I mean, well, I could see that. Well, I mean, for a keyboardist, usually it's a guitar player that's influenced by the Beatles.
Their songs are very keyboard accessible. Well,
Yeah.
in that time, their debuts, they were doing rock, the rock and roll. I mean, like almost rockabilly, but not really. It was more, 1-4-5 stuff. I Want to Hold Your Hand and all that. But they grew into very keyboardish music. Paul and John
Towards
were
the
writing
end.
that, and Lady Madonna and all that kind of stuff. So, it was and I still teach those songs because on keyboards, they really are made for keyboards as well as guitar.
Right. Awesome. So now we get to the nitty gritty.
Uh-oh.
You know who I'm going to talk about.
Where's the
right
nitty gritty?
now? You know who I'm going to talk about right now. I got to show.
About what?
I said, you know who I'm going to talk about right now. See my tats, long live rock and roll. Here's my Dio tattoo.
Okay.
You know I had to bring it up.
Yeah, no. Okay.
1994. Strange Highways. You became I don't know, you were a full-time member or you just started touring with Dio at that time?
Yeah, I was kind of working my way in, or Ronnie was working me in.
Well, let's
You
start from the
know,
beginning. How'd you meet Ronnie and how'd you get the
well,
gig?
I knew Ronnie in passing for many. Sound City. I was recording a Keel album at Sound City, and we were kind of living there recording the album. And Ronnie would come in. He was out in the rehearsal part because Sound City was kind of a community. And then there was Paula, the desk girl, and he was talking to Paula. And I walked by. Oh shit, that's Ronnie James Dio. So I just kind of hung out. I just started talking as if he would know me, even though he didn't. And I said, I'm Scott. And he's like, oh, cool. And we started talking. He was talking about something to do with orchestras. So I've written for orchestras and stuff. So I kind of felt like I had a,
Connection.
read into the conversation. He was talking about trumpets. He played trumpet. A lot of people may not know. And he didn't early on. He gave it up, but he started playing trumpet. And so he kind of had it. And so the next time I saw him, he's like, hey, Scott. So everybody knows that's how Ronnie was. He remembered your name.
Oh, I'll tell you a story when you're done. Go ahead.
But that's kind of basically just bumping into him all over the place. And then, him remembering me and me not, going over the top. There's a certain way to sort of show respect to certain fellow musicians without, going, I'm not worthy,
Yeah, right.
And I think he respected that. And then Jimmy Bain, actually, I think he would come around during the Keel album mixes and stuff. And he was hanging out and he goes, hey man, you'd be great in our band, And I don't know what was going on between him. Claude was his keyboard player at the time, but anyway, so he and I kind of made friends as well. And,
All right, so this year had to be about probably 87, right? Because
no, we're talking 92, maybe 93.
really, because
and then there's a plane going by. I don't know if you can hear. And then but at that time I was well out of Warrant. I was done with that. I mean, and the scene was really crazy for those who lived through that time. It was that whole
grunge
era, and keyboards were sort of like on the, nobody wanted to know there's keyboards. No, we don't do keyboards. It's like, so it was that kind of era. And so I started me and myself and Jeff Pilson and actually Craig Goldie started our own band. And it was prog rock, but it was heavy prog rock. And so we wrote some really cool stuff. But then Jimmy Bain, I guess,
left,
was missing for dead once again.
Yeah. That's why
Jeff Pilson, who was in my band, got called to, meetings with Ronnie. And so he, got hired. And so Jeff, kind of just said, hey, Ronnie, you got to check out our keyboard player. And Ronnie's like, well, who is he? He says, Scott Warren. He's, oh, Ronnie, oh, Scott. Oh, okay, yeah, I know down.
Scott. Yeah, the reason why I was mentioning 87, 88 was because Jimmy Bain wasn't on that Strange Highways album. It was Jeff Pilson.
Right.
But now that also makes sense. And Claude Schnell had left a while previous to that.
Actually, he left. I don't know what happened there. I never did know. But it wasn't like big news or anything. It just kind of worked out somehow. So basically Jeff Pilson, and I go way back a long ways, and he plays a little bit of keyboards. But then when he, needs a real keyboard player, then he'll call me up. At least that's how it was then. So we kind of had this rapport, and now he's left our band and he's playing with Dio and they're doing the album. And so Jeff said, Ronnie, I can do these little parts that I did for the album. He said, well, I think we need a real keyboard player. Let's get Scott in here. And so I did. So I did the some of the parts Jeff had already sorted out on that record, but I was really proud to do the ideas because Jeff and I think alike. Some of the ideas he had, and then I had my own, and we just kind of collaborated. And I'm really proud of the keyboards on that album.
Now, the album that we're talking about is Strange Highways by Dio.
Right. And, Strange Highways was such a, departure from Dio. and was more a lot like the band Jeff and I and Craig Goldie were in, very angular, kind of Sabbathish, but more progressive. And then Dehumanizer hadn't come out yet at that time, I don't
One of
think.
the most underrated Black Sabbath albums
I
ever.
don't think I might be wrong, but I don't think Dehumanizer was on the market yet. So with these,
Dehumanizer was 92, and Strange Highways was 94. It was out already.
okay, well, all right, well there you go. Anyway, and Tracy
Scott, they
G.
call me the king of useless information.
Okay, well it fits here. It helps me out.
All right.
Anyway, so that I was saying that album was really angular. Tracy G, the guitar player, was very angular. Jeff and I were very angular, meaning not your common, whatever we can do to just make it have an edge and sound different.
Right.
And so I don't know that a lot of people didn't really get that album, but then a lot did. So it wasn't like, okay, here's another Dio album, but
It was
I love that album.
Well, me as the ultimate Dio fan, I can tell you it was a departure. When I heard that opening track, Jesus, Mary, and Holy Ghost by Tracy G, I was like, holy fuck, man.
Yeah, it's got such
Dio. This is
anger.
Dio, 1994. This is where he should be. It wasn't like the previous album, Lock with the Wolves. And they're a very, very, I'd say the album, 3/4 of the album are awesome tracks. Then you always have a couple that, you just say, okay. But for the most part, it's a very solid Dio album.
What about Give Her the Gun?
Give Her the Gun is an awesome track. It's about abuse.
And that was the first time I got to hear Ronnie really sing in the studio. It's like such a pretty voice coming from a guy who's got the most biggest, boldest voice, in rock and roll. I mean, but he sang, I saw how he sang so, pretty and, and then give her the gun.
Yeah. He said, I'd say give her the gun.
Yeah.
So I got to tell my Dio story now because we're going to segue into the next album that you did with them. I met you at Slip Disc Records, if you remember. It's in Long Island, New York, in the year 2000. This is when you did the Magicka album.
Okay.
Which was your next Dio album that you did.
Now the next one was Angry Machines.
Angry Machines 96. Actually, it might have been it was in 2000 I mentioned. We'll get to Angry Machines, but anyway, I just want to tell the story real quick. So, first of all, I'm going to tell you the Ronnie story. I was there with my wife. We brought him a dozen roses, and my wife made him a bunch of chocolate-covered pretzels. I'll never forget this. He sees this. He comes out from behind the counter, comes over, hugs me, hugs my wife, gives her a kiss, says, "Thank you so much. What's your name?" I says, "Ralph." He says, "Joanne." No problem. Little chitter-chatter. That's it. Fast forward 2 years later, we go to see you guys again in Vintage Vinyl in New Jersey. We're waiting online. He looks at us, comes from a back, comes around, comes over. "Ralph, Joanne, how are you guys?" 2 years later, this is a guy that's toured the world.
I know. Yeah, he was so good at that. I mean, yeah.
One of the most, one of the nicest human beings, not only rock stars, but a human being I have ever met in my life. I can't say enough about the guy. And that's when I went and I got his name right on my own. I said, this guy.
It was just, he respected people in general. And he knew how to show them common courtesy and respect and go out of his way to do that. And especially his fans,
Yeah.
His band.
He said, go ahead.
Well, we kind of, got the sort of golden honeymoon thing. It's like, when my first year, I was like golden with him. And then after a while, it's kind of like a family,
I got to ask this question.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Ronnie mad? Have I
ever seen him what?
Mad.
Oh, yeah.
Has he ever just gone off the tiff, scream, cursing, motherfucking everybody?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Totally. He was,
For instance,
he was a very, I don't want to he was Italian, you
Of
know,
course, so am I. That's
Sicilian,
why.
and New York, and very my way or the highway, you know, and but you never knew, like, because he was also, it wasn't
Passive.
two face. It was just that he was also nice to people. But when you had an opinion that he didn't agree with or something, uh, he would kind of let you know, and then if you went on about it, he would just let you have it.
I can
But he
see.
wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that to the public. Just to people he was close to, you know. And
Right.
the closer you were to him, the more he would let you have it. So I got it a lot.
All right.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, and I don't know if you remember this, but when I met you in that record store, you had a black eye.
Yes.
Can you give me the story behind that? Because
Oh
when I
man.
when I got your autograph, you signed it to Ralph from Scott Warren with the good eye. That's what
Yeah.
you wrote.
I think I bought an eye patch too. I was wearing an eye patch. I think I had a goatee, and had
I have the picture somewhere. I should have got it. I took a
yeah.
picture with you.
Um, so I was kind of like, yeah, the backstory of that. Yeah, we were in Canada, I think. I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, we ended up playing in a Hell's Angels bar,
Wow.
and I didn't know it. Um, so there's all these, beautiful girls in their place, hot chicks, whatever. And so uh, I made my rounds because it was kind of a dive, small bar. It was kind of like a roadhouse place, but I didn't realize that it was actually Hell's Angels, because they weren't. None of them were wearing any colors. It was just sweatshirts, t-shirts, and so we did. So I met a couple girls before the show, sat down, and just sort of said, "Hey, how you doing? I'll see you after the show." And then so after the show, I went back over, and they said, "Yeah, we got to leave, and the girl that you liked has already left. The one I, you know." And so I'm talking to these girls on the way out, and this one guy just comes around, and he's just kind of like, "Hey, and I'm like, excuse me, I'm talking here." And I guess he knew these girls, so he got jealous at me because I'm talking to them. So there was a little bit of territory thing going on there, but I'm like, "Look, just be polite. Let me finish my conversation, please." And I'm going to leave. And he's whack,
Boom. That's it. Sucker punch.
sucker punched me. And it was, I didn't realize it, because then I was still standing. The girls kind of fled out, and I'm like, "What? Who hit me? Who hit me?" I'm like the cowardly lion. "Let me have it. Put him on.
Oh,
Put him on."
put him. I'll fight
I
someone hit
couldn't
behind my
see the
back.
guy. He was dodging me, so I couldn't see. So I go, "All right, fuck it, I'm leaving." So I walk out, still standing, and another one from out of nowhere. It was almost like his arms became 18 feet long, and another one, bam, out of nowhere. And so I'm like, "Okay, where is he?" And then so the bartender saw what was happening, so he jumped over and goes, "Hey, dude," to me. He's like, "Look, you're bleeding. You got to leave. Let me walk you out of here." And I'm like, "No, where is this guy?" He's like, "No, don't."
Just forget it. Take
Yeah,
your losses
forget
and
it.
go.
And so, but see, the thing was, our crew was in there just before this, all loading out stuff. So I felt sort of, protected, because we had a security guard and all that. Suddenly they were gone. They're
I
out.
thought you were gonna end the story by like Ronnie comes in with a ninja outfit on and starts kicking the shit out of these guys.
Well,
Ronnie does the crane from
yeah, there was
Karate Kid.
another part to the story. There was some girl at the bar before this happened, and I'm just sitting there before this, and I'm waiting to talk to the girls that the one I liked. This girl starts grabbing onto me and kissing me and stuff. I'm like, "Who are you?" She's like, "I'm a friend of Ronnie's." I'm like, "Then why are you kissing me?" Like, she
Yeah.
goes, "I want to go out. I want you to take me to go see him." I said, "Well, I got a little things to take care of first." So she saw this happening. She ran and got onto the buses. So she's hanging out with Ronnie. Guess what's happening out there? Scott's getting his ass kicked, sucker punched, and yeah. So they walked me out. The guy goes, look at the ground. And I go, "I can't see the ground because the one eye was, and he says, "You're bleeding, dude." So then our tour manager came in, flashlight in the eye, and he's like, "Come on, come on." So now I have, security guys walk me out of the bus. The police came, all this stuff happened. I got, sent to the hospital. Anyway, yeah. And so it turns out the guy that hit me was a Hell's Angel. And he was trying to earn his stripes, I guess, whatever you call it, earn his colors. And we did a lot of Hell's Angels places. We did a place in called, I think, the Strand in Rhode Island a lot, and there was a lot of Hell's Angels there, and they knew me, and I told them what happened. They go, "We're gonna go clean that up for you."
There you go.
They go, "Because that ain't right. He wasn't wearing his colors, and you're not supposed to do this without people having the
Getting
So
that permission.
he broke a bylaw. So they went and I don't know what they did, but
Well,
so then I have this eye. So I had to get a patch and try to play with one eye, and
so that explains
They-
Scott Warren with the good eye.
they called me Captain Morgan for a while. I
Captain
think.
Morgan. There you go. Good. So now I got the answer to my story why you had that black eye. I've been waiting 21 years to figure that out, Scott. So let me ask you, because I asked this to Vinny, and you played on the album, Angry Machines. I have to tell you, I am the quintessential Dio fan. I love him. I will go to my grave loving him. I love him to death. I was a little confused by that
I know what you're
album.
gonna say. Go ahead.
To me, it was a very bland album. And I'm going to ask you because I'll tell you what Vinny told me the other day. Did Ronnie ever discuss lyrics with you on songs that he was writing? Like, because he always left it up to the fan to think what a song meant. Like, let me give you a for instance. The song "Don't Tell the Kids," which is on that album. Do you know what that song meant?
No, that isn't one I even
Played on, I know.
Well, I might have even played on it. I don't know. I just don't remember it. I remember Double Monday. I like that song.
Yeah, you played that live.
Yeah, what that album was a bit eclectic because there we were again, and Tracy G, I think, was kind of struggling to come up to outdo himself with ideas, which happens all the time.
Right.
With bands that have do an album and then they have to outdo themselves on the next one. That's very normal. So Tracy, I think, was kind of backed into a corner that way with ideas. And then Jeff said, Ronnie, how about doing, oh crap, what is it?
What? Which?
The
ending song?
Beatles-ish one. The Beatles.
This is your life?
No, the Beatles-ish song.
Big
Stay
Sister.
Out of My Mind.
Stay Out of My Mind.
That was a song that we were doing in our band. Jeff wrote it, but we were playing it in Jeff's band with me and Craig. And so he pitched it to Ronnie, and that was one of the only times I think I ever saw Ronnie go, "Okay, we'll do your song as written without me writing into it."
Wow.
So he did that because he would write in if he had a song, he would normally write in. He's got to have some ownership, which is fair.
Music lyrics and melodies by Ronnie James Dio.
Is that what it says?
That's what he writes on his albums.
Well, right. But of course, some people collaborate with him. There's artists like Alice Cooper that they have outside writers and stuff, and everybody knows that. Yeah. Ronnie was a self-contained artist. He liked to collaborate, but it was kind of like you collaborate and then I take it back.
Well,
right. Not in a bad way. It wasn't in a bad way. Sometimes for some guys that were in the band, they may feel that way. I didn't because I hadn't that much invested as, say, the guitar player who,
Right. So during the writing process of an album, and then we're going to get to Magicka, and then we'll end up with the Dio Disciples. Do you have any songs? Could you have a song and say, "Listen, Ronnie, I have a song. You want to hear this?" Would he do that, or he only do it for the album?
He actually asked me during that album, if you have any ideas, throw them at me, and I did, and he's like, "Yeah, it's a little and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I get that." It's really hard to outright Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah,
you can write in, but it's really hard to outright. Meaning, now since he's deceased, and we've done this Dio Disciples thing, and there's been a couple times when we've been writing. And it's like, I'm just thinking, yeah, I can write songs, but hey, man, this is Dio, and it's got to be at least as good, if not better, for people to buy this. And I wrote one song I'm really proud of. It's called, this was just a few years ago, called "The Sky Is Falling." But then our record deal fell through and blah 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 blah. But I wrote
what band was that for?
Dio Disciples.
Oh yeah, I heard you guys were right. We'll get to that in a
Right.
little
It
bit.
just, the industry has gone back and forth on us. And so, anyway, what I'm trying to get at is when I consider how the Ronnie's craft, how he wrote these songs, how he constructed them, you know, uh, it's so hard to come up with something that he hasn't already thought of,
Yeah,
you know, lyrically, musically, rhythmically, all that stuff. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the Beatles. They nailed every chord progression just about that there is.
yeah,
Right. So if you do write a new song, it's either going to be like a Beatles song somehow, but then it goes somewhere else. You're going to find some Beatles in there somewhere for the
right.
most part.
Yeah.
If it's a song that has it's melodic, you know.
Well, it's funny, and this is another answer I couldn't get so far. I asked Tracy G, I asked Vinny Appice, and now I asked Scott Warren what the song "Don't Tell the Kids" meant. And Vinny's answer was, "I have no fucking idea." That's exactly what he said. Tracy G, I asked him. He says, "I have no idea. You got to ask Ronnie." And you said the same thing. And me as a fan, I don't know. So
Yeah, that's what I mean by his craft. Is it's like, I write a song and it's like I want to tell a story, but all the words are kind of normal words, and it's like that's not cool. It's got to be a cool word and something that sings well, to a real good singer. All those kinds of things have to all. And I think thinking back on Ronnie's craft at writing, he did a lot of crossword puzzles, so he was a wordsman
yeah,
and he read a lot of books. And was very intelligent. So I think in my mind he actually did stuff like literally like make a list of good words, bad words, words that fit, words that don't fit. Holy diver, what does holy have to do with diver? Put them together, make it mean something. What does that mean? Ride the tiger. Well, it comes out meaning something. It's empowerment and all this, but who would ever think ride the tiger? I mean, it's just he was so
he was a ride the tiger.
yeah, and it matched his singing style. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
The next album you did with them was Magicka.
uh-huh.
That was supposed to be part of a trilogy. We only got to do
Yeah,
the first one.
he was working on Magicka Part 2 and I think Part 3 at the same time
Yeah, when he got sick.
during his last days with us here on Earth. And we did a couple demos for some of the songs. Pretty good, pretty cool. But I also got a little bit of a window into his writing process there too. I don't want to drag that question out too much. Simon has a really good insight too because he was living with them.
Simon will
And
be on
so,
the show June 2nd. Simon's
right.
coming on our
So
show.
so he would go down in his basement studio and just sort of just pluck out these ideas, you know, Pro Tools, and then it would be nothing. It would just be a bass line or something because Ronnie played bass. And I went over to the house one day and he's playing. They're both listening to these bass parts, and he's like, "That one's Lancashire Boulevard. That whatever they were called." He just gave them phony names. It's like kind of like that one, don't like that one, and those little pieces would turn into a masterpiece somehow.
Right. That was the evil genius that he was.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you guys went into the studio, because you actually, I have to note that you were the longest tenured member of Dio, aside from Dio himself. You were
Yeah.
in it 16 years, from 1994
17.
to 17. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
1994 to 2010, when Ronnie sadly passed away recently, 11 years ago. So anyway, did he only write for the record? Do you think that there's any music out there that will be released at some time? I mean, like from any from Holy
You mean
Diver.
besides, like We Are Stars and things like that?
Yeah, I mean just anything floating around because I
Well,
can't.
that's something that I've heard little snippets of things that were found. We're trying to digitize his catalog of ideas, but Wendy has full possession of that, and
Yeah,
I don't know. It comes and goes because she's got so many other projects she's doing, and but I know Wynn Davis has been trying to encourage her. Look, you got to digitize that stuff now, or it's going to evaporate. And
Win Davis was Ronnie's engineer for years, who actually did Angry Machines. He produced with Ronnie.
so but I can't answer that question directly. I mean, is any of it good? Who knows? I mean, like I said, it took himself to take these ideas that sounded like nothing, and then but somewhere in the back of his mind, and that's how an artist really works. You kind of have a vision, and it doesn't sound like your vision yet. You craft it like sculpture until it becomes your vision. So these ideas, so far that I know about, who knows if there's anything in there. But all of what I heard were just little sort of snippets. And, I don't know that anybody,
You don't know if it's worthy enough to be released.
would be or that anybody would be worthy enough to take them and craft them into full sculptures.
Right.
Without them being Ronnie James Dio,
All right. So that album Magicka was a concept album. I thought it was up there in the top, maybe in the top 10 of his albums.
Okay.
I liked it. I didn't love it. I have to tell you, as a fan. The next album that you did, I loved. Killing the Dragon.
Oh, right. Okay.
Killing the Dragon. I thought that Ronnie.
Yeah, it was more back to Dio.
Yeah, when he got Doug Ulrich in the band, I mean, I know Craig Goldie wrote a lot of that stuff on it and was replaced by Doug, but that album was killer.
Yeah.
Killer.
But I want to go back to Magicka. I mean, it was so much fun to do live because it was like a real theater thing, Yes. It was like, even without production, even without visuals and just a basic light show, it just had this Pink Floydish kind of epic. Wow, did we really just see that? All those songs, all that intricate music, but put together, kind of like an Iron Maiden meets Pink Floyd, whatever you want to call it, Dio rock,
Yes.
and thing. And it when he was playing us the album, when it was mixed on the bus, we were in Europe somewhere. We were jet lagged, and I remember falling asleep.
And he got mad at you.
I think he didn't notice, but I kept waking up going, "Oh shit, yeah, whatever." Yeah, because that would be really disrespectful. But it was because that album is such a it's a lot of it's really slow. And then other
chanting in it.
Yeah, but after I listened to it, is one of those albums that has to grow on you.
Yeah, and I have to say, it took balls for you guys, and Ronnie especially. He played that. You guys played that album from front to back on that tour.
Right.
It wasn't like you just playing a song here, a song there. I mean, you sat and he played the whole album.
Right. All the bells and whistles I had were me.
Yeah.
There was no tapes, no backing tapes or anything. No inserts from the front desk. Probably the only thing the front desk might have played was the intro. But other than that, it was full on me.
Magicka.
You pull off all of the chants and the choirs and the falling, stuff and the Magickas and all that stuff. Yeah. And, the interludes and all that stuff. And that was a real challenge because at that point in technology, we didn't have the whole Pro Tools thing yet, that whole environment yet. And I did it all on one keyboard because I had a bunch of keyboards. And at that point in time, I got my Kurzweil, which most people know that was my pet keyboard, which was a sampling keyboard, and figured out how to split it. And so basically I said, Ronnie, I think I can do everything on this one keyboard. We don't have to ship my other keyboards all around the world, which is what it would have taken in those days to pull that off. And so I really had to do some homework to figure out how to do that. And I invented my own way. I'm not bragging, but I did. It was like, how am I going to do that while that's happening and play, with 10 fingers? And I did, and I managed to do that, and that was the show every night,
Yeah, it was a great show. I was there for both legs of the tour. I was there. I never missed a Dio show. And you stood.
But it was so fun to pull that off, and and we toured the world. We toured Europe with that, And then all of the mishaps, because I and the band now was so relying on this technology, this one keyboard. Because if you remember, also around that time, I think 9/11 had already happened, or not, maybe hadn't happened, but the airlines were getting really, really. It was costing more, and yeah, airlines were really cracking down. It was just becoming just a nightmare to ship a bunch of keyboards overseas or to Brazil or somewhere. So I said, Ronnie, I think I can do it on this one keyboard. So we were relying on that one keyboard, and we couldn't get an appropriate backup in another country because my keyboard was so customized. And lo and behold, you want to hear some stories, but they're mostly keyboard stories. But all the things that happened to me because of that damn keyboard being mishandled on the road.
Wow.
For instance, we get to Brazil and we're doing Magicka. And like I say, once they're in the show, it's not like, oh, hey guys, Scott's keyboard it broke down, so we're just do the songs without it. No, it's frozen in, you know. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the next part relies on this keyboard bit that leads to that other bit.
So
You know,
that has to be there, and you have to be there.
so we get to Brazil, and everything was fine until my keyboard fell off the truck.
Oh boy.
Oh, and it was like half the keys were in other, played different wrong notes and wrong sounds, and it was just like and the crew called me up at my hotel room and says, you better come down to sound check because and I go down there and it's like, oh my God, what happened? They didn't tell me. So they didn't want to tell me. They're ashamed that it fell. And I'm like, and then Ronnie showed up, for the normal hour before the show thing, and he had heard what happened. And he's seeing me out there pulling my hair out, going, oh, what am I going to do? Because only a few notes worked, So I went back and I curtain call, and I go back and go, Ronnie. He goes, I know. He knows. I know, Scott. This is Ronnie when you really learn to love him. It's like, I know, Scott. Puts his hand. You just do the best you can. Just get us through it somehow. I know you can do it, kid. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So as we're going through the show, I'm like, okay, that note works. Okay, but that one doesn't. So don't use that one. Testing out the notes as we go. Because I didn't have time before the show, yeah. And so somehow, I don't know how,
You got through it.
we got through it. And that was like the biggest moment for me where Ronnie began to really respect me beyond just being some keyboard player in his band, because that was a real challenge. And then there was a time, this is a shorter one.
Time at band camp?
Huh?
It was the time at band camp?
Time of what?
At band camp. That was from American. No, that was from American Pie. That was a joke.
Oh, I don't know. This was my favorite story about my keyboard. We were on our way to Brazil. Not Brazil. The Bulgaria for their New Year's EU celebration, and I had this big solo worked out on my keyboard and everything.
Before the fall?
Huh?
From before the fall?
No, it wasn't before the fall. It was my own.
Okay, cool.
Concoction. But yeah, so we get there, everything's cool. The next morning is New Year's, or no, that night, our tour manager knocks on my hotel room, says, hey, Scott, your keyboard didn't make it. I'm like, what? Yeah, it's not here. I go, well, I can't do this on a different keyboard because mine is all, he knows all this, right? He's like, we're trying to get you a keyboard, but, we're in Bulgaria and it's New Year's. Everything's closed, Well, what happened? Well, apparently it's been stopped at Interpol because they found human body parts.
Oh, God.
Not mine. Not me. He's like, he was German. He's like, what you do? Cut off somebody's hand and put it in your road case? So yeah, it never did show up. And I had to do the show on borrowed keyboards that were nowhere up to spec, what I needed to do to pull the show off. And it was another challenge. It's like, okay, here you go. It'd be like you picking up a guitar that's tuned to a different key and having to play it in that right key.
Right. It's very hard. Well, we only got a couple of minutes left. I want to start winding it up. You wind up playing on two more albums with him. You did Killing the Dragon and the sadly last Dio album, Master of the Moon,
Oh, right. Yeah.
who I thought were two of his better albums. I mean, he really was hitting his stride again because I mean, like you said, you kind of repeat yourself. You try to find different things to do, and I believe that's why he always went back to Sabbath, and then did Dio back. I mean, he had a little turmoil there, but I always felt that he liked to have a change. He wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
But one of the things you did a keyboard solo on the song Before the Fall.
Right.
That was pretty good.
Oh, thank you.
Not too many people can say they had a keyboard solo on a Dio album.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's been a few. I actually had a couple, but that was the more notable one. I did a huge thing on that song, "Stay Out of My Mind," but it was really
that was when it broke down. There was a lot of chord
that one
changes.
was like a number 9 kind of thing, where it's like goes into some acid trip and it's yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that was very. I remember him saying in interviews he was doing. They were experimenting with a lot of music, a lot of changes, a lot of different fast, slow, on that album. It was like experimentation.
So what's your next question?
My question is, you finished up with Dio and you wound up with Heaven and Hell.
Uh-huh.
What was it like touring with now you had not only had Dio, you had Iommi, you had Butler, and you had Vinny.
Right.
So what was that like?
Well, it was like a dream. It was like something I couldn't believe was really happening. That they were my first concert I ever went to. I told Tony Iommi that. I said, when I first met him, the very first, I said, you wouldn't believe this, but I saw you at Winterland, and it was 1972. And that was my first concert. My dad bought me tickets at Tower Records, said, who do you want to see, Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath? I said, Black Sabbath.
There you go. See, Black Sabbath.
Right. So I was really into Sabbath then. And of course I was with Ozzy, but he's like, oh, yes. He's like, oh, yes. I remember that very well, Winterland. He said, we didn't know there was a power difference and our amps blew up at that show. So, but going into that, it was kind of, it was surreal because it was like, here are the guys, it's like full circle. And, I never met Geezer. I'd met Tony a few times, but he was always very, nice, but, he's a rock star.
On the move.
And, so, he got to know me a little better. He came to a couple Dio shows along the way. And, anyway, but I just never forget that first day when they're in from England. We had already sort of done a dry run with Ronnie and me and Vinny. And Vinny and I go back, of course, to the my beginning in Dio. So, and Vinny's, I love the guy. He really made me feel at ease. He's like, hey, these guys are going to be cool. Just, and as soon as they show up, he's making jokes with them and just kind of showing me that it's not going to be that difficult to sort of navigate.
He told us a joke the other day. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
All right, Vinny, I'm going to tell you a joke. You said, what does Brooklyn and pantyhose have in common? Flatbush. I told him, I said, not nowadays, maybe in the 70s.
Right.
So anyway, right. All right. So you went Heaven and Hell. Now we end of the interview we're coming to. I want to talk to you about the Dio hologram.
Well, you skipped over something. I know we're running out of time, but
we'll talk about the Disciples.
Well, not even the Disciples. Is that I just wanted to. I'm sure you had this in your mind because it was, and I don't want to go into big detail, and I have before, but it was really strange because I'm now I've been on the road with Ronnie for 3 years, and all the other guys have been having to do other stuff. But I never forget, towards the end of the Heaven and Hell tour, We were at the bar, and it was just Ronnie and me. And he said, "Scott, I can't wait to get back and do Dio again. We're
Oh,
gonna do Dio again."
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and he's like, "I love this. This is great, but it's not my band. It's not Dio. And we're gonna go home and we're gonna do it again. With Simon and everything." And so yeah, so there was a little lag there. I went on the road with Typo Negative for their last tour. Just by
Johnny Kelly's coming on the show too. Wow.
Oh, cool.
This is like
It
six
was a
degrees
fluke.
of
Johnny invited me. And it was Peter Steele's last tour before he died. And so it was a fluke. They never had another guy in their band, so I was sort of like the new guy. Anyway, and then I come back, and it's like now we're in rehearsals with Dio, and just really looking forward to it. But Ronnie wasn't well, and so the inevitable happened, and we had to cancel that tour. We really were so looking forward to it. It was so sad. And we thought, well, we'll do it again. We'll get back to it. He'll heal. He'll get better.
right.
And that unfortunately just never happened. Unfortunately, but yeah, then the Dio Disciples was something that really took a lot of thought, and it really took Wendy to be the one to think of it, because it was really her being the widow. We couldn't just go and do it. We needed to go through her. And now we'll get to your question.
Well, here was my thing, and I'm telling you this as a fan. I love all things Dio. I'll support Dio no matter what, anything. I saw you guys at the Paramount Theater. Musically, I'm telling you, the sound, the show was spectacular. I have to tell you, seeing him up there as the hologram I was a little taken aback. And now I love Ronnie, and this is just my opinion. And I'm going to say the same thing to Simon. I mean, I know it's a celebration, and I was there and I support it, but I just didn't feel like Ronnie was there. You know what I mean? That's only my opinion.
I so understand what you're saying. I wish we could bring him back.
Yeah. So do I. Nice. So do I.
I have dreams that we do bring him back somehow from heaven, but the fact is we're not going to bring him back. And, and so this whole venture, and I've gone through a lot of, controversy over it. We all have, is like, should we do this just because we can? And, it isn't really him. Yeah. Like I say, we can't bring him back, and there's no way it's going to be as fulfilling as what you would expect having seen Dio live.
Right.
Right. And, and I have to admit too, it's a little bit like I'm looking at a screen. It's not him. It's his voice, but we're performing along with this thing. And
awesome show. I have to tell you, the sound, one of the best Dio shows musically that I've seen. And I mean that.
Thank you. My brother said the same. He saw the Stones at the same time as he saw that. And he said he liked us, but no. No, he was talking about the production. No, there's no way you're going to compete with the Rolling Stones. But anyway, he said he liked it at least close.
Yeah.
But you got to realize, it's like, do we do it or do we don't do it? I mean, if we don't do it, it won't be done. Right.
And one thing I can say is why I was a little taken aback was I was front row. I was right in the front, and I'm looking to the side, and the only way you can really get the whole show in is if you're back, like in the middle of the amphitheater, whatever you want.
Then you don't get to see the hologram.
Right. Then you're looking straight ahead, and then he's like, wow, he's there. But if you're standing on the side, where I was like, oh, it's just a flat screen. But listen, I'll take it. It was a Dio show. It was an awesome show. You guys played great. I love Ronnie James Dio. I got him on my own. I mean, how many times am I going to say it? So you can't get a bigger Dio fan than me. But I have to be critical.
I understand. And people have said, why? I'd rather just listen to his records. That's really his voice. Than go to some show, even though it's a celebration. I read a lot of comments like that, but then I thought about it. I said, yeah, I get that, but you do realize when you hear the record that it's not really him singing to you in your car when you put in the CD. That's not really him. It's
Who
his
is it?
voice,
It's his voice, but it's not him.
not him, right? So why wouldn't you then want to go and with people who love him, people who perform with him and everything, and at least hear and at least be able to revisit
Yeah. And
the
I know you really did. I know you really did love him and are honored to play with him, because every year I always see a picture of you at his memorial. You're there all the time.
yeah, it's yeah.
You're one of
No,
the
it's
faces that I always see there. And I always go, there's Scott again. He's there all the time. The other guys, I'm not saying it's hard for everybody to get together. I understand that. But you're always there. You're one of the constant faces there. And Simon.
yeah. Simon's usually there too, and Craig lives a long ways away, so he has it is a very um, strong commitment to his fans and his music, and really doing what we believe he would have wanted us to do. But again, I know it's really hard to. It's just not going to scratch the itch of him being gone with a hologram. But what it can be is it can be for those who never did see him. See, you're comparing to what you've seen, right? For one thing, and you have had that opportunity to see him and realize what a real rock concert is like with a real singer, okay, in the day. But there are a lot of people who missed the opportunity.
They get to see him now for the first time.
Yeah, and maybe wish they hadn't have missed that opportunity. It's
Yeah.
like, shit, I should have brought tickets,
Yeah.
when I could. And then, of course, there's a new generation or two new generations.
So let me ask you, what's the story going forward? Is there going to be another hologram tour? Or is that been there, done that? I know it cost a lot of money, and Wendy footed the bill for the whole thing.
I want to do it. I mean, basically we were on track to do it. We had a whole tour lined up, a world tour, before the pandemic hit. Where that's left us, I don't know, because to do a tour like that with moving parts, big production, a hologram, the band, everything, 8 trucks or whatever it was, all that stuff, it costs a lot of money, and it has to be feasible to take something like that on the road, right? With even before the pandemic, with people saying things like what you just said, well, I don't know if I get this hologram thing. And then there's plenty who say, yeah, I'm going to go do it. Cause I just to go and party like that again, in the audience and hear those songs. So it was going good. It was going really strong. And also keep in mind this, that, it was a work in progress. We weren't just that hologram was going to develop.
Yeah, I know.
That was pretty much a prototype. We went through one prototype already, and that was the debut. And then everybody said, let's take a step back and take a look at this thing. Is it really Ronnie? It doesn't really do him justice. So they recrafted it. Did a lot. It took a year of really digging in. And
no, it looked just like Ronnie. Once you're in front, you see it. It's Ronnie. It's there. He's there. And I'm not knocking anything. I love the man. I love you guys. I love Dio. I'll support Dio no matter what. I'm just giving my honest opinion. I have to be honest.
I respect your opinion.
Yeah.
But I think we all are kind of in this. When the pandemic hit, it was kind of like it's going to be a while, guys. It's going to be a long time.
Wait.
And where that leaves us at now, I don't. We haven't collected the pieces yet. We haven't. We've talked. We met this year at the memorial, and Wendy's all.
I know his she's finishing up his autobiography. That's going to be out.
She's been working on that for years. And then the documentary, which I'm going to be a part of that because I've got a lot of footage that we're going to dig up. Cool. I've had to digitize, so that's going to be another thing. But we want to get out and play. We want to get out and rock. Yeah. But we need to know that it's going to be full capacity, not this, cardboard cutout people and the masks and all that stuff. That just won't work. We want a rock and roll audience.
Exactly. That's what I was telling you before.
So we got to wait it out further. I don't think we're ready.
I said, okay, so we're going to end this with Dio Disciples. Now, there was rumors that you guys were recording new music. what can we expect from the Dio Disciples? Is everybody still in the band? Is it still Oni, Ripper, Craig,
Well,
Bjorn England?
to be honest, I don't know because you know everybody's got to fend for themselves, especially when nobody knows what's going on with this whole pandemic time.
Right.
And and so we get sucked into other projects, and so who's available? Well, so Oni's doing something, Craig's doing something, Ripper's doing. I think he's already gone.
KK's Priest,
KK's thing, and
Craig just released Resurrection Kings.
So, it just has to. The plates have to land in place.
Let me ask you this: are there songs written for the Dio Disciples, original music from the Dio band that will be released at some time?
There's 4 songs that were beta songs that Craig did. There's one song that I did that I really believe in because I think
The Sky Is Falling.
Right, and because I really believe in that song.
Who sings up?
And I wrote it and did it all myself, but that's not why I believe it. It is because I tried so hard to find something that is going to cut through.
Right.
And not just be something, oh, here you go, here's a rock song, here's a rock song. Craig's really innovative too. He likes to not repeat, he likes it, it's got to be different. And I'm like, yeah, it's got to be different, but it's got to be
Dio.
Good. And
different, but Dio.
So we were writing songs and, and we were collaborating, but we never got to the point where it just, again, all these plates spinning, things people schedule and all this stuff.
Well, let me ask you this, and this will be one of my final questions to you. Who is on those records? Who is on those recordings? Who's singing? Who's guitar? Who's drums?
Well, the 3 that they did with Craig, or is it 4? I think it was a drum machine. I don't know. Simon might have gone in and overdubbed the drums, but I wasn't there.
You don't know?
I didn't even do keyboards.
Is it Ripper? Is it Oni?
I think Oni mostly. And I honestly, that was now 2.5 years ago.
Well, yeah, that's when I heard.
I honestly don't remember because everything just sort of got canned for a while. It's like we were doing that, and then the hologram happened.
Right.
And then let's do the hologram, and then so then we focused on the hologram, and that all kind of got pushed into the back burner and whatever. And then we were doing the hologram, had big plans for 2020, and there you have it.
All right. So I want to end this. I always end this with a little bit of song association. I'm going to give you some songs. You let me know which one you pick. You ready?
Okay.
All right. No More Words or Take My Breath Away?
Oh, Take My Breath Away.
You like that one?
Well, No More Words is really poppy.
Yeah.
But if you're going to pick a song from them, oh gosh, let me think of it again.
Well, no, it's either or. Those are the only 2 songs.
Okay. I only get those 2. All right.
That's it.
Okay.
All right. Let's go with I Saw Red or Heaven.
I Saw Red.
Good song.
Just because I like to play that song.
You like to play
I got to play it on TV.
Yeah. Ooh, it must be magic how inside.
He did it as a duet.
Yeah. I know he did it with a country singer.
No, we did it with Janie Lane, and
but he re-released it.
He did.
Yeah, I remember hearing he was there was a country like a country vibe on it. There's a couple different versions to that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Suck the cow dry.
I did. Yeah. I.
All right. How about this? Before the Fall or Stay Out of My Mind?
Well, of course I have to say, yeah, Before the Fall.
Really? I thought you were sold on Stay Out of My Mind.
I can't choose. I can't choose between those 2 because I got to play a lot on both of them.
All right.
How about This Is Your Life? Now I only got 2 choices.
Yeah. This Is Your Life. That was an awesome song. Awesome.
And I always hit the buzzer late too.
You always hit the buzzer late. You'll never win Jeopardy.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go with a rainbow song. Stargazer or Light in the Black?
Stargazer.
All right. That's my song. That's my all-time favorite song. Cozy Powell was one of my drum heroes.
But I would have picked Gates of Babylon had you said it.
Yeah, this is Dio. I could pick tons and tons of songs. I only wanted to give you a couple, Scott.
Okay.
So, Scott, where can we find you? I know you're at Scott Warren Keys on Facebook. Do you have a website? Do you have an Instagram account? Anything so the fans can log into?
Oh gosh, I've just been using Facebook. I have a website, but what I'm doing is, it's no secret that I'm really getting engaged in teaching and trying to really teach. I mean, I'm making video games. It's a gaming site, and it's for learning piano and music, and that's what I'm really focused on as my sort of poetic accomplishment that I'm working on. So my website is a teaching website. It's personalpianoteacher.com. But it's in beta right now. It isn't even really a website. It's just got a homepage and then some ideas. So it will be this year. By the end of this year, I'm going to have it really rocking.
So
then I'll let people know about it. But
can fans get to you? Can fans get to you virtually? Like if somebody's in New York and wants to do lessons, do you do them by Skype or you have?
Oh yeah, sure. Zoom lesson. Yeah.
So they could do a Zoom lesson with you as well.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
And then they can find you on Facebook, obviously, Scott Warren and Scott Warren Keys. You have a lot of stuff up there. I have stuff from Scott up on my page. And
I have my Gmail is for teaching is scottwarrenlessons@gmail.com.
There you go. All right, Scott, you're a part of the Rock Shop family now. I hope it was interesting for you as it was for me. And you're a part of the family now, as I said. And I hope to meet you one day again soon with two good eyes. And the rest that we say is history. I look forward to, I wish you continued health, happiness, and success. And we will talk another time. But thank you very much, Scott. This will be posted up on both my pages for you.
All right. Bye, everybody, as the sun sets.
Stay on, man.
All right, man.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, Scott.